Okay, so for the agenda for today, we'll do public comment, board member comment, senior leadership comments, policy committee, regulation committee, and then we're gonna vote on our bylaws, which we do have a red line version to go over. And then we'll have elections, and then open comments, and then we'll close. Any questions? Okay, did anybody get to look at the minutes from February 9th? Okay, motion to approve? Second?
Second.
Yays?
I wrote them, so should we go?
All approved. Okay, great. I'm never gonna get that right, so let's just all let's just all know that. Okay, all right, so we do have a public comment today. So the board advisory committees view public comment as an opportunity to hear concerns of the public, with the understanding and expectation is not considered a question and answer platform with board advisory committee members. Consequently, the board advisory committee members will not provide a response to public comment presented in its meeting or by submission of a written comment, although they may follow up with the individual as appropriate. In order to have an orderly presentation of comments by the public and to maximize the opportunity for public comment, students, individuals, and organization representatives should be limited to 2 minutes for their public comment. When the buzzer sounds, you will be asked to complete your sentence. For Mr. Metzger. Yep, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Good evening. I'm here tonight on behalf of East Church residents regarding the recent removal of bus transportation for students in our neighborhood and nearby subdivisions who attend Governor Thomas Johnson Middle School. I also want to address Frederick County's broader transportation policy. Frederick County currently has some of the highest walking distance limits in the state of Maryland, second only to Prince George's County. Current policy sets those limits at a mile and a quarter for elementary students, 1.75 miles for middle school students, and 2 miles for high school students. When compared to counties of similar size, the difference is clear. Many of those districts generally set walking limits at 1 mile or less for elementary students and about 1 to 1.5 miles for middle and high school students. These standards are widely used because they reflect more reasonable and realistic expectations for student travel. In contrast, Frederick County's limits are significantly higher than surrounding districts and do not align with counties of a similar student population. That alone is reason for this policy to be reviewed carefully. I'm asking the board to take a comprehensive look at the transportation policy and consider lowering the walking distance limits so they are more consistent with neighboring counties and best practices. I'm also requesting that bus service be reinstated for students in the East Church neighborhood, for students attending Governor Thomas Johnson Middle School, as the current application of the policy to remove the service does not appear to reflect its intended use. In our specific case, bus service had been provided for students in our neighborhood since it was built over a decade ago. Many of our addresses fall within the 1.75 mile guideline limit measured to the school entrance students actually use. However, the transportation department is instead measuring to the outer edge of the school property, which is not an accessible student entrance. In fact, the school is not even visible from that location. That change in measurement significantly affects eligibility and results in students being excluded from service in a way that does not reflect real walking conditions. To add context, the walk from our home to the middle school is approximately 40 minutes on foot. This is a 40-minute walk for a 12-year-old child carrying a backpack and often additional items such as instruments or school supplies. It is also a walk that occurs in all conditions: early mornings, winter, cold, dark, and extreme weather, without any transportation support. This is not an isolated issue affecting only a small number of homes. For our middle school, this recent change impacts 2 neighborhoods I am aware of, which together include roughly 1,500 homes. Ultimately, I am concerned not only about the removal of bus service in our neighborhood, but also about the broader policies guiding transportation decisions across the county. This issue raises questions about consistency, fairness, and whether the current standards reflect real walking routes and student safety.
That's your 2 minutes, I'm so sorry.
Do I finish the sentence or no?
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's my last sentence.
Yep.
I respectfully ask the board to review both the measurement methodology and the overall walking distance thresholds with the goal of bringing Frederick County policy in line with comparable counties and more realistic expectations for student transportation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, all right, now we're gonna go on to board member comment.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Couple things. First of all, I was a walker, so I get it. Not a walker in Western PA. And if you ever had ice and snow in Western Pennsylvania, it was a heck of a walk. So that's something definitely, we'll send out to talk about. And thank you for that. It's also budget season, and so a lot of decisions are being made. So I'm excited to hear more from the community of what some of the needs are and how they view what's going on in schools. And it'll help me be able to communicate that out to my fellow board members and really inform decision making. So, but I appreciate you guys again allowing me to be in your space, and I hope you all had a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, senior leadership comments.
All right, so I have a special guest with me this evening for senior leadership comments. This is Dr. Stephanie Ware, and not only is she the principal of Walkersville High School right now, but as of July 1, she will be our school administration and instructional leadership middle school director with the retirement of Tom Saunders. And she's here tonight because we want to talk a little bit about the magic in the middle. But if any of you were watching the board meeting this past week, you might have seen Dr. Dyson flash a document. And the document that she flashed is our internal record keeping of all of the things that are currently happening in many ways to us that we are trying to stay on top of from the state. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about those things. We have a new state assessment coming. We have a new accountability model coming. We have new standards frameworks coming. We have a literacy policy and a math policy, if you haven't heard of those yet. And we're just working really hard to manage impact, minimize impact in our schools, but also embrace the goodness of the changes that are coming. And a couple of things in the math policy that will impact our middle schools relate to course sequencing, but also a current requirement that states that you must have a minimum of 60 minutes of math on average daily. And so, of course, the goal is to get more time for students to spend in pursuing literacy and math. As you know, our current schedule does not meet that requirement. As stated, the policy says that by 27-28, we would have a new schedule implemented if we meet that requirement. As with most things with the State Department, there are some additional conversations, and they are talking about adjustments to the language, they're talking about adjustments to timeline, and really just trying to network across all local school systems to make sure that folks are coming together and that we're going to do right by our students. And so that's where you all come in. We're really just seeking input generally from you all on what's working with the middle school experience right now, whether you have a child in middle school right now or you had a child in middle school. What's working, and what would you like to see us improve as we take on this task? And Mandy's ready. I see it. She's ready.
I have 2 in middle school right now.
Yeah.
I have another one coming. Leaving at the end of this year, and I have to tell you today I was a little frustrated because he came home and not only did he have MCAP testing for algebra, because that's pushed back because it's a high school level course, but then he also had iReady testing after that, and he has to make up any of the work that he missed from taking his algebra MCAP. I was really, really floored and upset about that. Yes, he got to sit there when everybody else was taking their math MCAP, but they also then didn't have to make up any work and then take yet another assessment there right after that in the afternoon. So I think we still need to relook. And I know you just said that we're going to do a new state assessment, so who knows what that will look like. At least I don't. But really looking at the amount of testing that these kids are doing, because that's not uncommon for my middle schoolers to come home and tell me that. And somebody who works with a wide variety of kids like I do feel like the middle school kids are getting the short end of the stick on testing with diagnostics, state testing, and anything their classroom teachers are giving them because of the curriculum or anything that they feel like they need to do. Whereas I listen to some of my other high schoolers and they're not tested nearly as much, and I'm not advocating for them to be. I'm advocating for the middle school to kind of really re-examine the frequency in testing. On the other side of that, I have been extremely pleasantly surprised at both my kids' middle school experience so far. It being a very difficult time for kids, I feel like their teachers overall have a really great sense of the adolescent brain, and have really tried hard, they're at Ballinger, to communicate appropriately with parents. I don't hear about every little thing, which I think is important for them, but I do hear about more important things. So I feel like overall the communication has been really good. I feel like the teachers there have used their their ELT block really appropriately. So they will pool kids. Kids can request it and they'll actually pool them, where I know at other schools that's not always the case. So I feel like there are some schools who are able to pool kids for tutoring when kids ask, or teachers being proactive about it, or using that time to do makeup tests or extended time for things like that. In other schools, I'm not hearing the same thing. It's really inconsistent across the county is what I would say. Again, working with a diverse group of kids from all over the county, it really depends on where you are, what you're getting from the middle school teachers and administrators. But speaking to Ballinger, I feel like they've had a really good handle on getting to know my kids as individuals, managing behaviors. Yes, there are behaviors, it's a middle school. I would love to see maybe some additional renovations done to some of those buildings to be more, let's say, beneficial to learning. The environment has been kind of challenging in some ways, and I know they've done what they can with like actual walls at that school. But like the bathrooms, they have frequently locked them during like lunch times, and made it, and this is across the county, I hear, not a very safe place to be in the bathrooms. And I think that that's a big problem, that our kids can't actually use a bathroom in the middle of the day without worrying about what's going to happen. So those are just a few that are top of mind for me. I think there's been a lot of positives, like I said, with some of the specific teachers trying to make curriculum engaging. It would really break my heart if they took away the middle school outdoor school, because I know that was on the block for a little while. I went on that with both of my kids, and it is such a tremendous experience at the middle school level, and I would love to see them do more hands-on things. I know the career coaches at the school, or the career coach at the school, has done a really nice job trying to incorporate field trips for them. And even when the government was shut down, they rescheduled the field trip, which I was like, oh, thank goodness, because it was like the only field trip. I think that kind of stuff is super important, and as much as they can bring that opportunity to our kids, the better. But my biggest concern, I think, right now would be school hallways, bathrooms, and the amount of testing that's going on for them.
Thank you. I love that it's fresh. It's all right here. It's fine.
Literally, this just happened.
What else?
I think it's,
I
I'm
have
sorry, go
a
ahead.
couple in middle school as well. I don't have nearly the amount of feedback or the level. But I do want to reinforce one. The kids really do struggle with the amount of testing that we have. Not just the testing, but also the time spent on test prep. Strategies, whatnot. It seems like such a waste of instructional time that we could be using to teach other important life skills and issues. But the ELT time, again, our kids are Middletown. We found that the teachers are utilizing for tutoring. My kids, I know, have really benefited from that. As far as kind of concerns, and I think this is more on an individual level with leadership, but just a lot of lack of communication. We've had kind of the opposite, very poor communication coming from the middle school, lots of frantic emails that parents have had to do to get an understanding of what's going on, when things are happening, and then also issues with instructor-teacher behaviors at the school as well that have kind of gone unresponded to, not in that way. there's just, I think the typical middle school, you have, I think that's universal, just the student interactions.
I would just echo that I don't think it's consistent across schools. Like, we're at Newmarket, and there haven't been any field trips. They went, which has been a big frustration. My daughter, she was excited about. They did go with the band this weekend. So, but all the other kids that are not in doing any, they didn't get to go. So it was just for that very small pocket of kids. And then some of the sub behavior has been fairly questionable. There was a whole incident, I guess, last week that was fairly concerning that all the kids were talking about. So
I can actually speak to that as well. We've had a couple issues with subs that have sat in the class watching shows or movies the whole time and didn't even give my son, it was like, she didn't even tell us what to do. She didn't give us any instructions of anything to do that day.
I'll third that. So I don't know if there's like a train. I know they would have training. I'm sure it's difficult to find subs right now. So, but it does seem like there's like significant training that's needs to happen or something. The incident in Newmarket was not. I wouldn't say that it was a small situation. I think it was fairly concerning. It was very inappropriate. So,
Thank you. Sharon?
I think I don't have the specific data with me, but I've been looking at some data in terms of outcomes. And in the FCPS website, there is, one of the goals for school one, and one of the various goals is approaching grade level. Anyways, for 8th grade, it looks like in math and in literacy, in ELA, there are some groups that are not doing as well as others. And you see African Americans, right? In terms of math, I don't have the percentage, but like 20% at grade level. So for me, that would be, a concern. Or 40% at grade level. Maybe you could briefly explain what does that mean, grade level? Is this like a very high bar that they're not passing, or what is that measuring? Because if we see again the overall, but if you start looking at subgroups like Latinos, I am Latina, or multiracial, my kids are multiracial, African American, right? If they're so behind, and this is middle school, when are they going to catch up? Are they graduating already way behind? And what is this doing for their life long-term outcomes if they're starting already behind? So that would be, I think, very important concern. My kids are not in middle school right now, but I'll be tracking how they do and they get to middle school. But yeah, that percentage was really concerning. And again, maybe I don't understand what it means. So if you could explain what that percentage means, that would be super helpful.
So, and I do want to continue to get feedback, but I'll take a moment. I appreciate that you saw the anomaly that is 8th grade, particularly in math. As Mandy was talking about her middle school student who was out taking the Algebra 1 assessment. Of course, I don't know which grade, if that was in fact 8th grade. But that means that all of the 8th graders who are taking the Algebra 1 are not taking the grade 8 math exam. And so by nature, it's a different group of students. It's a smaller subset of the 8th grade. So oftentimes our middle school principals say, would you put that together for us so we can see how all of our 8th grade students are doing? And I clarify that while also saying outcomes are a big part of what we're focused on, and Dr. Ware knows that we have gaps for certain student groups, and in fact our greatest gaps systemically are often for our students with disabilities, students receiving free and reduced meals, multilingual learners, and so we have work to do there, for sure. But you will see something very different in 8th grade math.
I also think it's important to note these kids were in 2nd, 3rd grade when the pandemic happened, and so the expectation academically really jumps at that point in time, and so they're missing some foundational skill work, not math related, but my 8th grader can't write in cursive, because we never had that. But like, even if you look at some of the, phonetic awareness and things like that, that they should have been learning at that point in time, that group of kids, they would have been in second, third, and beginning of fourth grade when things like the pandemic were going down. So they were missing a chunk of really foundational skills, and then constantly playing catch up from that. They're a little bit older, so they're going to constantly play catch up from that to begin with.
And I will share this because I've shared it publicly with the board table. When we do look at and have data, yes, the state is doing a new assessment. There's a reason for that. And the state superintendent said, wait a minute, there's incongruence with the results that we see on the report card and the state assessment results. Something's not right here. Local school systems for many years have been saying, hey, this is what we see on our local assessment data, such as iReady, and it is not completely congruent with what we're seeing on state assessment. So it's a tough question to answer right now. I'm very excited for a new assessment to see. We used to feel very good about the results that we were getting and being able to use them to plan information for students. The state has done studies also related to the CCR standard and found that in fact the state tests alone were not good predictors of college and career readiness, but rather GPA was a better predictor, and so you'll see that this year they've adjusted the CCR standard. And again, that was from the American Institute of Research, who came in and said, we'll do an independent study and evaluate all of this for you. So any way you cut it, we're not where we want to be in the way of student outcomes, but that's factual information that I'm sharing.
And maybe just to add to that very quickly, algebra in 8th grade, when I grew up, maybe it's ancient, that was standard. And then STEM, I think STEM is an area that would be interesting to consider. I don't know if just introducing it to kids somehow at a young age will help. And I was just at a after school program over the weekend, and it was really nice to see kids from middle school, 8th grade, getting information in STEM, learning, providing, chemistry. They were learning chemistry. I was not in the chemistry track, so some of the stuff that they already were learning, I don't know. That's not my area, but the point is that they can learn. The importance is exposure, and I think that would be something important to consider on the academic side, right? I mean, catching up with algebra, and then definitely considering how to start introducing some STEM areas.
They have STEM at the middle school level, and they have, across the county, there are some STEM labs in the elementary school. My kids have taken STEM every year in middle school. And I think that probably also looks different across schools, because I was hearing from another 8th grader down in Urbana the things he was doing, and I was like, well, that's very cool. So I'm asking my kid, he's like, no, we're not doing that. And I'm like, oh. So I think that looks different. There's that consistency piece again. But they do have STEM within the middle school. It's an elective. But I also feel like, again, this is where, in my opinion, the field trips for like outdoor school and things are really important, because it is connecting. I'm right there with you. They've learned so many more things in science than I feel like I ever learned or know right now. But they really did a nice job of connecting that for the 6th grade, but there's not one for 7th or for 8th graders. And unless you're in some sort of specialty group or take the right elective, you're not getting another field trip. And I would love to see, 7th and 8th grade get science related field trips or social studies. So,
yeah.
Were you going to say something? Oh, I thought.
Oh, yeah, well, I was on hop at 2 points. So I have a master's in special education. Part of that was on testing. So these tests don't actually show you what specific level you are. They just say, are you proficient? So they can give an 8th grade math problem with 9th or 10th grade reading. So you'll see a lot of students that will take the MCAP test, but the reading is not on grade level, it is above grade level, but the math problem is on grade level. And they show, are you proficient or not met proficiency? And sometimes that deviation is 1 question or 2 questions. So sometimes the percentages are skewed. They might say, oh, 20% of our kids are only proficient here, but another 15 to 20% were one question away, and another 15% were 2 questions away. So, you know, I've done a lot of testing in my 19 years as like an educator, and I will tell you that it is definitely something that can be used. I also want to, on a testing thing, one thing we hear from educators all the time is when we test, we can't use the data for anything because they've moved on. So the testing window is like at the end of 8th grade, or, you know, let's say 8th grade, you don't get that data until, well, you're in high school, and so you can't really use that data, which is a problem with the testing and the testing window, which I assume is why Maryland is looking at all of their assessments to see whether or not it fits in the educational program. And my son actually goes to middle school also, so I agree with the consistency. Like, it's not consistent. My son goes to Crestwood, so it's not consistent of what these students are all getting in their school. I totally agree with his teachers have been over communicative. I loved it. I know everything that's happening right then and there. He is over tested. I think any parent would say, my kid, he's jumping from test to test, and it's like, okay, man, oh, and I still have to do this work tomorrow. It's like, okay, like there's no testing breaks or anything like that. It's like back to back to back, which also skews testing data as well if you're over tested during the day. And then I love what you said about the prep for the tests, because then you lose 2 weeks, so a week or two in the prep for the test, and you do all that testing, then you got to catch up for 3 weeks right after. So, but I personally loved my son in Crestwood. He's blossomed socially. He would tell me that negative is the hallways is really too crowded. Trying to get from class to class, even though they have their own 6th grade. He's in a highly able learner, so he has to go to the 7th grade and he can't get through the hallways. In the bathrooms were another thing that he's mentioned to me about. When you go to the bathrooms, like rarely, it's crazy in there. I'm like, okay. But yeah, so that was just my little 10 cents on the testing thing in middle school.
I don't know, on the testing thing, one more thing, and I don't know that this is really within our control, but in 8th grade, they have all of the tests. So not only do they have the ELA and the math, but they have history and science on top of everything else. So they're really like toast.
Yes, and that is a piece we don't control, but we can control the context within which all of that happens.
Or even like, what can you control with iReady? Like, can the window just be different for 8th graders? Like, give them a little bit of a reprieve or something on like when that is done, not the same week as algebra testing. Like that, you don't have control over that, but you can have a little bit of a different window on when you give iReady, not the same day.
Listen, I have notes, I know Dr. Ware has notes, and this is really good for us. I heard a call for consistency as a major theme, and I know Dr. Ware will carry that to the principals. But also you talked about the importance of extended learning time, and as we talk about any schedule and we're vying for minutes, you know, something's got to change. Something's going to have less time if another thing has more time, and that's always the challenge when we get to a conversation about schedules. But we, this year, had the requirement that every school had an embedded tutoring opportunity for kids, and we did try to get more consistent, and it makes me very nervous to think that we would lose that time that allows us to respond.
I think that's a beautiful time block for them if it's utilized correctly.
So we will work on that. Thank you all so much. If you think of anything else that, you know, this evening or tomorrow, feel free to shoot me an email and we would love to hear it. And this work will be ongoing. We don't know the exact timeline because the last conversation we were a part of, they said this may get pushed back. But we're still planning, still thinking about it. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, policy committee.
Okay, policy committee. So we met in March. We did not meet in April because spring break and all of the April business. So we met a while ago, March 25th, I believe. We were talking about a few different things. I want to focus more on what we're going to talk about so we can have kind of a conversation about that I can take in. But just to recap, and I'm just looking at my notes from last meeting. We did talk about the use of social media, and we want to broaden that policy to reflect more of a responsible use. And I think we talk a lot about teaching kids responsible use of technology, responsible use of the internet, and that's going to broaden into AI, which is my conversation coming up. We're going to talk about this policy again, but the driving force behind that is actually State Senate Bill 928, which is a cell phone bill that prevents cell phone usage from bell to bell. So you walk in, it is off and away, I believe is okay, right? But off and away. Like no one can see it the entire day. A couple years ago, we had just revamped what we were doing, and it was more level. You know, you had the elementary, and you had the middle and the high school. I think I was somewhere in between elementary and middle when that started, that conversation, and my kids do not have phones yet. So now they do. I'm like, why are you texting me? Don't text me until 2:15. But I think the research has shown that, you know, the cell phone usage in schools, however you govern it, is not working out in the educational format that it needs to be. So that is at the state level, and then we're waiting for some guidance to come from the state down to our county, and then we'll be able to take that and apply it to our schools. So that's coming down the pike. So think about that, read up on that a little bit, because I'm sure we'll be talking more about that in the coming months for sure.
Yeah, and I would just add, there is a board presentation during work session on the 20th. Dr. Meerschaw is bringing a middle and a high school principal at board request to talk about how the current regulation has been implemented, but then in comes the bill. And so now we know what the path forward is, and we just have to talk about what is it, you know, how do we get us there, and there's have to be a policy.
Right. And regulations, right, Chris? So, yes. It'll be more you than me, I think, next time. But I know. So that is it's been interesting to see how that has evolved over the past 4 or 5 years since we've started talking about that and figuring out, well, now all these kids have these phones, what are we going to do with them? You know, we went from let's teach responsibility to that's really just not working. It's just not working. So I think, you know, however we're going to implement that, I'm definitely positive that it's going to be a good change. It's going to be a hard change. Like the first year is going to be really, really tough. And then after that, you know, it's kind of like boot camp. Then you kind of settle into the routine, and then that becomes the norm. I do have a senior that year that graduates in 28, so if it does go into effect that year, that's going to be quite an interesting time for us. But I'm positive about it's going to be great.
I love
Glow
that
enthusiasm.
self-talk.
We did also talk about Policy 509, which is extra and co-curricular activities. This policy is coming back in June for another discussion, so we're not talking about it in May. But we did talk about how we have a separate policy for athletics, and then we have another policy for other extracurriculars. And the point was made, which we really appreciated the explanation, that comes from the state level. So it's not that our school system just splits all that out. It actually, you know, we're governed by the MPSSA, two A's, okay. And so we take our regulations and policy from them, and those are not really negotiable. So we have those, and we add in our FCPS specific information, and that's where that lives. And then we have, you know, clubs and other organizations in a separate place. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes, but athletics is going to add some different procedures on reporting and things like that, and then that's going to come back in June. So still plenty of time to look at that if you guys are interested. And then we did also talk about 516, which is teaching controversial issues. That was adopted in May of 2021. And this really stems from our history department and people bringing artifacts into school and using them for educational purposes. And you guys probably remember the news story several years back where there was a flag visible from a window. And so we talked about the conversation in policy committee, which I loved this conversation. We talked about we're teaching kids how to think, not what to think. And so, you know, there are things that have historical significance that it means something different when you see it in person rather than in a photograph, right, or an imagination or a picture. So we did talk about that policy, and I don't think we're going to do a lot of changes, but there was some outdated information and language that we were updating. So if you want to check that out, that's 516, and that's also going to come back in June for discussion. Those were the big highlights from the last meeting. The one coming up, the biggest one, I think you guys might have read this in the paper, is we're going to talk about AI. Like that is, we talked about it a couple years ago, we had a discussion, and I think I had just started on the policy committee maybe, and we were talking about we don't have a policy on AI. And so there was a debate whether or not we should jump into it. Should we wait for the state to come down with their guidance, because there wasn't state guidance yet, and there wasn't much from federal either. So, but then there was another camp that said, well, no, we can't wait. And I was in that camp, to be honest, because AI is changing right now. Like, it's gonna be different when we walk out than it was when we walked in the store. People were using it, well, I have a senior, so when he was in middle school, so I'm talking like 6 or 7 years ago, the teachers were so upset about, what is this? What are we doing? And I can't figure it out. And now you have AI detectors and all of these things. So we don't have a policy, but we're going to gather all the information that we can from other LEAs that do have one. We do like to look at some other ways that other school systems do it, see what might apply to us. We're not copying off of their paper, but it is important to see what other people do and how they interpret all of these laws and policies that have already been set. And if it relates to us, we might take some ideas from that, but also obviously make it Frederick County specific. I did talk to some staff members today, actually, because we had some free time in another meeting that I was in, just to get their feedback about AI and what they think. And it was a variety of subject matters they taught across the board. I think I had somebody from everybody except for the arts in this group that I talked to. And really, they really wanted the guidance on when is it okay to use it and how is it okay. It is okay to do some things with AI. But how do you do that and how do you teach that safely and effectively? It is also adding a lot of time to teacher schedules because they have to figure out, oh, well, all of your sources are fake. And so they're going back and forth in these conversations with the kids. They're like, no, it's not. And they're like, yes, it is. It was, because AI also creates fake sources and makes it look really good in MLA format or APA format, whatever you want, it will make, but it'll also make up the title and author of the book. So kids are learning that, teachers are learning that and figuring out how to do that. There are some great positive uses for AI, so I think we need to really pay attention to where those are and then help our staff navigate the rest, because right now we're just kind of all doing our best, but we don't have a guidance. So we need, obviously, the policy, which the board will say how they want it to look, and then the regulations will put it into practice. But it's a huge conversation, and I think it's hard because we all have different experiences with it ourselves and our kids. My son wrote his college essay by himself, but he put it through an AI detector and it said it was 68% AI. He said, Mom, I didn't do it. He called the college recruiter and was like, this is what happened, what do I do? She said, don't even worry about it because it happens all the time. So they're aware too at college. At that level, but it's stressful when you're trying to apply for a job or do something else and your resume looks so good, so anyway, that is coming up, and that's kind of probably going to be the meatiest conversation that we're going to have at the May meeting. So any feedback on any of that, and then the things I mentioned earlier, which will also be in the minutes, would be great for our June meeting too. But I would love to have a little conversation about that if you guys just throw your thoughts out.
Yeah, very quickly on the cell phone use, and now that new bill and it being from bell to bell, just noting bus. My daughter did have an experience where a classmate was taking a photo of her in the bus. She didn't want that to happen. So there is an issue with privacy, and also the person approving to that photo, and then photos can be used to bully other kids, with Snapchat and things like that. So I know it's bell to bell, but there's a question for you all as you consider what policy we implement or how you're going to integrate that bill into FCPS. What happens during bus time and this issue of privacy, and when students, they don't want to be part of social media or having their photo taken, how should others address that? And then on AI, I think, as you say, it's changing constantly. So there's a huge question about age appropriateness in terms of when students should use it. So I don't know, by the time that you guys get to review the policy, I don't know what the recommendation would be, but it would be important to look at what, the evidence says in terms of what is the age appropriate way, or time for students to start using it.
Okay.
Yeah, there may be a time when they're too young to even, try it out.
I'm gonna put a plug in for our librarians that I know they used to work a lot with the kids with like identifying sources that are, reliable and accurate. And I'm not sure if that's part of what they talk about now, but we're taking more of them away than we're taking away opportunity to do further instruction on how do you differentiate what's appropriate to use, all of that part. I do think the developmental part is really critical, just looking at what they can really understand and the dangers of using it, for sure.
And identifying it.
Like, I have trouble identifying some of it,
I think that's scary itself, because I think they can't tell what's real and not real.
Yeah.
So I think that's, especially when they're younger.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of adults that, myself included, that you have to like triple check. You feel like you have to like triple check every single thing.
Yeah.
To make sure it's actually real.
Well, even fake emails that you get about, your bill is overdue because of your subscription. I'm like, what is that? Obviously it's spam, but so many people,
We were talking about SROs last time and coming out and doing like presentations to parents, and I think that should be, whether it's done by an SRO or not, but like presenting to the parents to how to help them identify with their own kids, like what is and what isn't, because these kids are also prey to different people who are using AI for nefarious purposes. So I think it's really, really big. And so what the policy is going to actually address, and what other things, and maybe this is the regulation, like how do we roll that out to help them?
See it as there's a school policy thing, because there's use the phrase bell to bell problem of how do we deal with this tool, weapon, whatever, however you want to use it. We have this thing, but as several of the policies that we've looked at in the past, there's this community aspect of it, and part of that is going to be helping to educate parents. I deal with it every day, and still I need education on it. My wife deals with developing it every day, and still she needs education on it. So the lay parent absolutely needs help helping their kid navigate this. Because the school can't do it, you can't do it on your own.
No.
But I firmly in the camp of, we don't know nearly enough about AI, but we have to have a policy that at least puts a marker of, we're heading there to try to do this, and let's start putting stakes in it. If we have to review it twice a year, then by God, it needs to be reviewed twice a year versus every 5 or like. But we have to have something that says where we're headed and what we think the impacts will be, and then just keep noodling through it.
Your son, not using it and afraid of being accused of using it, but I know plenty of other kids who are using it to turn in their work and hoping their teachers don't notice, and they're not actually learning the things. So, if you look down the road, what's that going to look like?
It's difficult because I know I work in higher ed, and there's a shift from policing AI to embracing and teaching proper uses of it and responsibility with it. And I feel like it's hard to develop a policy in absence of changes to curriculum and incorporating that along with it. Like, how do you do one without the other? So I think it's tough, but maybe starting with a broad, general what's not okay or proper uses of it, and going from there.
Some of the conversations that we had today, one of the staff members had been a math teacher, and she said, if you're at home and you're trying to figure out this, this concept in your math class and you just can't get it, and you need 5 more problems to talk about the hypotenuse, right? So you can type that in and it'll give you 5 more problems, and you're not turning that in as someone else's work, or you just need practice. And so that's a great way to use it. You know what I mean? Or I know both of my sons have used it because they're taking calculus and pre-cal, and that's hard, and I don't even know what calculus is, to be quite honest. So I am of no help. But they will put in, and they can't get this thing, and so they'll type it in and say, I'm working on this equation, I'm stuck here. and it will help them through that. It's not giving them the answer and they're not turning it in, but it is a nice way to get more information in a different way. You know, it's like they could Google it too, right? But they put it in there and it gave them, I mean, I'm sure they could have put in the equation and it would have given them the answers too. But they were using it because they were stuck. And you know, you can't always relate to the way your teacher teaches. And so a different perspective is helpful, and it is a different perspective. So I completely agree that it's just kind of like when the internet first came out, right? Like people were like, oh my gosh, it's terrible.
Calculators.
It's not terrible. Calculators were terrible, right? And here we are. But no, I'm so glad that you brought that up because I think that's important, very important value to the conversation as we craft the policy. Sabrina?
And Celeste, I've received, based upon what you shared about your son and turning in his essay and being told that this happens to everybody, I think we need to provide guidance to our staff of, we need to look at this in a restorative way. It's a progressive. It's not an automatic. Even if the 68% or the 75% AI usage shows on a tool that is used, and which tools can be used, I think is going to be important, but that's, again, something that could change frequently. I've had concerns come in to the Office of the Ombuds in regards to AI. We have just recently added an artificial intelligence website, which is fabulous, which lists information. It's under our academics and digital learning experience, and it lists information for secondary schools, intermediate grades, and primary grades for student use, and there's a link for the staff use. All preliminary, as the policy comes out, but there's some guidance out there. So for us to even review and hopefully give some updates to Celeste.
Just for, sorry.
Oh, just very quickly, I was going to say that for teachers, it may actually be a tool. I know teachers often say they're overstretched, you know, because there are so many demands. It should be a tool to help them with lesson plans. But that's really a question for, you know, the department that works with instruction to ensure that guidelines for teachers are provided. But it could be a tremendous tool. It can save so much time.
That's what I was going to speak to too. I think training for our teachers on using AI to help them with the students, but also in structuring assignments to kind of prevent some of this misuse as well is also important.
I can tell you, I'm a social studies teacher, so I did a lesson where they had to write the paper in AI, and then they had to go research what AI got wrong. And so, but those are like professional development trainings to use it appropriately. And I wouldn't know how to use it in math. I wouldn't know how to use it in science, but it's funny you said that because I use Grammarly. Like, and if you go to Grammarly, they have the AI detect button on Grammarly. So I'll usually type a paper or something and put it in Grammarly to make sure my grammar is okay, to second guess it. And it's come back 60% AI, and I was like, I wrote this on a piece of paper and just typed it in here just to make sure my grammar is all right. So like, you know, AI can be wrong too, but it is moving way faster than, I mean, at least I can keep up with. And it's just about finding those little niches, not to be fearful of it, but to try to figure out, okay, we got this big tool, how am I gonna make this work for the kids? And we have someone in the audience over there who wrote AI policy for, what was it, Maryland State, Maryland or National?
Maryland. I
Maryland.
helped with it, and with Frederick County.
Yeah, so she's helped write the
Temporary
policy.
policies, yeah.
So keeping up with that is probably, I don't envy that.
All the platforms are so wildly different.
Oh, God.
I'll ask the same thing and then I get something that's like completely
I
different.
learned as an anti-AI to my anti-AI. And I was like, okay, man, I can't keep up.
Okay, awesome. Do you have anything else? Anybody else have
I'm
anything
good.
else on that?
Thank you so much for all your input. I really appreciate it, and the policy committee definitely appreciates all of the feedback that we get here. And I know that you guys are getting it from out there and bringing it in, so it's super valuable and important to know what the community feels about these things. This is a really big, it's very big. I mean, to me, it's like thinking about the internet as a whole, and you just can't. The internet is just, there it is, and AI is out there also, and so we're gonna tackle that, but I appreciate everyone's feedback. So keep doing research, keep asking what other people think, your staff, that you work with or that you talk to and your kids, and just kind of see what are positives, what are negatives, and let's just keep that conversation going. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, perfect. Chris,
Yeah,
Regulation Committee?
sure. So, the last meeting was, sorry, my allergies are really taking over me. Last week. And so we're kind of winding down. We have one more meeting in June. So they've kind of gone through different iterations. So kind of more smaller regulations, and obviously some larger ones. Obviously, there's a system-wide cybersecurity one that's being reviewed, obviously, so that goes into our conversation about AI, making sure that we're updating it, and these policies, some of these, 15, 20 years old. So they're very, very lengthy, and the discussions have been very, very good to hear, kind of the perspective of all the people throughout the district, which is very helpful. One of them that was very interesting was the search and seizure one. And during the conversation, I had thought about this just from personally, but also the conversations that happened here about consistency and transparency in the district. And I raised that question. A lot of these policies are very vague, regulations, excuse me, are very vague. They don't clearly identify the point of contact or the person, the direct administrator. They're whoever's in the building, or it's just open for interpretation, which obviously is not helpful for anybody to make clear decisions and have kind of that roles and responsibilities, accountability. Dr. Dyson has said this multiple times, and I'm sure many people have heard this. Clear is kind, and I appreciate that, and I do believe that. It's clear is kind for staff, it's clear is kind for the public, obviously the students that these regulations impact. So I think what has happened through the time I've been on the regulations committee, an understanding from different perspectives. So principals, obviously Dr. Oliveira, so administrators, right? From all different walks and all different parts of the community, which is interesting. And so making sure that we are really taking these policies and regulations, not from just updating words, but really what is the impact it's going to have for long term, and how can we make this digestible to the public so that they understand. And then so if there is an issue with privacy for a student or search and seizure, the district is not liable, right? And we're crossing all of our T's, but also the community understands that this is a joint effort to make sure that we're making everybody aware of what the interpretation and implementation should be. So there has not been really a very hot topic one other than 443, which was already passed, but so search and seizure, records management, there's been a couple of those. There's also been a lot of employee-related ones. So we had we had some related ones and all of those types of things. And it was interesting to see the HR perspective and others, like, is this really going to work on the actual implementation scale? So a lot of the time, a principal, speaking to the choir, is responsible for many, many things, and that is just not feasible in a daily operation of any business, any organization, certainly a school. So making sure that there's accountability, but what is the line of accountability, and making sure that it makes the most sense for that for the district. The other thing is, we've said this before, consistency throughout the district is something I think we've all struggled with in a lot of different ways, from the minute, which is like, field trips or grandparents' days, we don't do this, we don't do family fun night, those types of things, all the way up to communications and implementation, policies and regulations. And so I think what the district has done, the conversation's been a part of, have addressed that, and I think Dr. Dyson certainly has led that, and the team has led that, which I appreciate. So I will keep you posted on the ones that we talk about in June, but they've gone through a huge series of regulations, making sure that they are relevant to the times that we are in now, and the world that we're living in. And just, I think there's a huge focus of just making sure that they're not vague. They spell out exactly what the regulation is intended to implement. So if I missed anything, let me know.
great. Awesome, thank you. Any comments or questions?
Barring any regulations?
Sometimes a regulation will be decommissioned. If there were two that touched the same topic and we decide to put it into one, then the old ones would be.
More of a consolidation.
Oh, okay.
Because and that goes to kind of the clearest kind, right? If there's regulation for both things and it's kind of gray in the middle, it's hard for the administrator in the local, the local school, or even the district, if it gets up to that level, to make a clear determination that is not seen as bias or any other way you could perceive it. So there have been regulations that have been in the past, I think, everything that came up, this is my opinion, everything that came up was thought of as that, okay, we have to make a regulation about that. And so what the thought process I think is now is there are groupings of policies and regulations that need to be together because they impact one another. And so that's what this whole series has been going through. Not just the words changing and updating, but does this make sense for the public, for the district to also manage, right? If you have 1,000 policies because it's one instance at a time that the regulation has been made, can they be grouped together and just spell it out in that grouping in the regulation? And so that's what has happened. I think it's been a very thoughtful process. Of course, we're not all going to agree on the regulations, but I think it's been a good conversation. I think it is a good group of people that represents all segments of the district. So happy to be part of it.
That's wonderful. Okay, great. Any other?
It's very quickly on, this is an idea. Take it or leave it. It may not be a good one. Maybe it's a great one. Now that we have AI and we've been discussing AI, as I've gone into the policy section of the website, looking at regulations and policies, and the only way, at least that I found, that you can search all of that is with the search button. But that's a little clunky, to say the least, because then it returns back a lot of things that sometimes are applicable, sometimes are not. I mean, there's still, it can be hard for some parents to navigate that. So, this may be a good time to think about, now that we have tools such as AI, how do we make this a little easier for everybody who needs to access these regulations, being the principals, teachers, parents, so that it's easier to know, what is the framework that they need to be using for X, Y, or Z. So maybe just a thought. I appreciate it.
I think that's a good idea, absolutely. You don't want them buried, that people have to search and then not use them and get frustrated. So I do think and also I think it's not the narrative that the district wants, and certainly I don't think the perception that we're trying to make it harder for you to find a regulation, right? So transparency, I think, is key for everybody.
I wonder if there's a way too to just group the ones that are predominantly being talked about at the top, so they're right there at the beginning. Because I don't know, my Outlook email, like I'll look for a very specific email, and it sends me something from 3 years ago. It's not at all what I was wanting to look for. So
They can be filtered by office, so they can be filtered by like special education. So anything that's related to special education or different offices, it also can be filtered by when it was last updated. So that timing that you're looking for, what was most recently discussed, can be filtered that way also through the page, along with searching specifically for a certain word or what you're looking for.
I just wonder if there's ones that are going to be like people are definitely like 443, right? That was or like transportation. If they're put up front, that people can actually get to because once you start getting into clicking a certain number of times, people are going to give up. And so I think at least having that, I don't know, maybe a little bit easier to get to, even though you can filter and whatever. But
Googling is another one that is.
yes.
Many parents face
Social
that.
media, cell phones. I mean, there's like we could probably keep going, but I think there's a few of them that are kind of hot topics.
Some of them are linked on certain pages. So the bullying one is linked on the bullying page. The transportation one is listed on the transportation page. So they try to make it, but I hear you. It absolutely can be looked at for some continuous improvement.
Once you do get to the policy that you're looking for, though, you can find the history of all the edits and the development of the current version that you see that day. And also you can then link to the regulations also. So once you get to where you need to go, and also they are grouped in like the 100s, the 200s, the 300s, the 400s. So the 400s are more student focused. The 100s are more board focused, right? So like how the Board of Ed operates. We talked about one policy in the 100 series where they, talked about someone who is filling in for someone else. And so nobody here is really going to look that up. But if you wanted to find that, you could in the 100 series. But they have really been updating the links at the bottom. So once you get to that policy, I want to know what regulation this is. You can then find that also, which is an improvement to where it used to be.
I don't know if it's too much to ask, but an index would be super helpful because you know the policy so well. You're like 100 is this, 200 for people that don't know. Anyways, something to
I
consider.
think most people are not gonna know. Said that.
Because, but I think, yeah, it took some time to.
Generally, people are not gonna be like, that's in the 400 series.
Yes, exactly.
No one do that, no.
Said no one ever.
No one ever.
Right to the 400 series.
You throw in your keyword and,
Okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so next we're gonna vote on the bylaws. So I sent these out ahead of time. Do I have to go through the whole thing, or
I would
are there
propose-
questions?
Consider starting with a motion to accept the changes.
I didn't know if I needed to review the consider that done. Consent done.
You could start with a motion, get a second, and then have a discussion. So
Okay.
if then people have questions, you go from there and then take a vote.
Okay. All right. Motion to review and approve the changes.
To approve the changes as they exist.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion. So now, does anybody have questions,
Questions?
thoughts about any of the changes that were noted?
My only question, section 6 was because we now have the member of the regulation committee, right? So that was the only reason for that ad? That's what I thought. Yeah, that was I just wanted to clarify that.
And that mimics what was in section 5, which was the non-voting member of the policy committee, which is already there.
Yeah.
Added the non-voting member now, the regulation review committee.
Any other?
Change to flag for us is that we're, according to the updated ones, we would be giving a presentation to the board once per year. Flagging that for. I mean, I'm a.
That's requested.
Correct, so it shall report to the board at least on an annual basis. I'm not sure, and this would be up to the board, whether that would be a public presentation, if that is a report that is emailed to the board, or what that looks like. For the board, other committees do give public presentations, but it's something that it's vague right now for us to find our way.
I like a vague.
Any other comments, questions?
I think vague is good too. I mean, we started, I don't know how many years ago we started. And so to have, 4 pages?
It says 2023.
I know. So I think this has really evolved, and I think it's great. And I like the fact that we have the flexibility to say, well, every year what we have done in this committee has been different every year. So as we evolve and have I feel like we have a much more solid path and direction to what we do now than we did a couple years ago. And I think, we've tried monthly meetings, we've done quarterly meetings, and, just kind of figuring it out. So in the next step, when we're talking about making a report to the Board of Education, how does that look? And that has to relate to what we do, and needs to flow from our work and how we communicate that to them. So I like having that open for now.
Okay.
All in favor?
Okay, opposed? Okay, so we're gonna approve the bylaws.
I agree. That is exciting. It's like, it is really exciting.
Your
It's all about
excitement,
small
Lindsay.
business.
Okay, now the fun part, elections. Oh, it has been a year.
Oh, it has.
Sabrina?
would start with the chairperson.
Okay. Okay, who would like to volunteer to be the chairperson?
I heard Brant say something. I
I
did.
heard something from the side of the table over here. Maria?
Are all of the, well, I guess my question would be, are the officers?
Who would like to return?
Yeah, who
Are
would-
you planning to return?
Sure.
Would you like to nominate yourself to return?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay.
Absolutely. I just was curious if everybody wants to stay in those positions or not, because that's a different conversation.
So the elected positions are,
So it's the chairperson, which is me, the vice chair, which is Maria, and then Chris is the secretary.
so that's what we have to vote on.
So,
And policy committee.
Are those elected or nominated? I thought policy and regulation were,
it says advisory, non-voting.
well, I don't vote there, but like,
Oh, it is like a, okay,
to
so we would have
represent
to.
us. Is it
The
election?
CAC recommends to the board
Okay.
for those two positions.
Okay.
So we can't elect, but we would need to know who is interested
So approve,
Okay,
right?
in that position so that it can be submitted to the board for approval.
okay, so are you going to stay?
I would like to.
Second.
I would like to, but I'm happy to, if somebody else wants an opportunity, happy to.
Same for me. If somebody else wants to jump into the policy committee, that is.
Okay, so it sounds like the chairperson, if somebody wants to volunteer.
You're not looking to stay as chairperson?
I mean, I will, but I think somebody else might want that opportunity.
I can try it out.
Okay, that sounds
Is
perfect.
that
Second. A third.
Okay, great. Okay, so we just go through one by one, so I'll,
Vice chair.
We need a vice.
Because Maria has now moved to chair.
okay. Vice chair.
My term is ending.
Oh, you're not coming back?
I don't, am I supposed to? I don't know.
You mean your term of being on the committee?
Yeah.
So, yeah, mine ended. You can reapply, or
Just re-up?
you just
Okay.
say that you're
Yeah.
interested.
We received an email.
Got an
Anyone
email.
received an email from Ms. Rich asking if you wanted
Yeah.
to reapply?
Yes, I have.
Oh, okay, so Carly needs a email then.
Okay.
Or how many years have you been? You have been two. Okay.
It should just be one.
Is it all just two, right?
It's two.
But I-
Find more members? Well, maybe that's a separate conversation.
They do that.
We need a membership drive or something.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Who can we entice, right?
I'm not recruiting anybody
So
for
we'll-
anything.
We'll put that
ever.
sorted
No,
out. And then, so are you interested in being vice chair? Once you're officially back on the committee?
Contingent on your,
Contingent on your.
What are the names of the vice chair?
Just to be backup, basically, and you learn about the agenda and, you know, all that. So Maria and I have been like, we'll do the agenda together. We met with Sabrina to do the bylaws and so, things like that.
Okay.
There's no pressure, you can say no.
Got a lot going on right now, so I
That's
probably
okay.
prefer not to.
I'll do it.
Brant's gonna volunteer.
Thank you, Brant.
Perfect, it's about time. Okay.
What can I say? I'm newly unemployed.
Well, congratulations.
I know, it's great.
That's
There we go.
amazing.
That sounds
It
perfect.
was the weirdest conversation with my boss, too. I had to fire myself because he was hemming and hawing around it, and I just needed the call to end.
You're like, I've got to go.
I'm like, I'm evidently busy, so.
There you go. Now you're gonna be the vice chair. Okay, all right, so we just do these one at a time and then, okay. So I am gonna nominate Maria as the chairperson.
Second?
Vote, do we vote? We vote? Okay. Yes,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, well done. Okay.
Oh, I nominate Brant to be vice chair of this committee.
Not second, my own nomination.
I need
I
somebody.
second. Second. Okay,
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, well done. Okay, I'm gonna nominate Chris as the secretary.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, awesome, congratulations. All right, will somebody nominate Celeste? I will nominate Celeste as well for the policy committee.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And
I would nominate Chris for the Regulations Committee.
I will second that.
all in favor? Look at that. Perfect. Congratulations, everybody.
Congratulations to you.
Yeah, you've served
Yes.
how many years?
Also to you. And
As
thank
the
you.
chair?
Blossom. It was a chair, I think. And then it was a secretary for a second.
Thank you. You've done so much for this group, so thank you for
I
your
appreciate
leadership.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, awesome. All right, now open comments and discussion. Anything, anybody want to bring up anything that we haven't already
Just
discussed?
want to clarify, I think my term is ending and I would like to stay so that I can be vice chair.
Oh, yeah. Did you not get it?
I did, and I think I said yes, but I don't remember.
Oh,
I'll double check.
Double check.
Well, it's 50/50.
A little
right?
chaotic
Yes
the
or no,
last
but-
few weeks, so.
okay, perfect. I think I said yes to my email, I'm pretty sure I did.
I'm fairly certain I responded, but
Great.
turns out that's been a gap in my life lately, so.
I think I re-upped last year.
Okay.
I did not get an email, but now everyone has me a little bit concerned.
I got an email.
Does everybody in the room still want to be here?
Well, we all just ran for something. Maybe check the list to get us to be on the safe
That should
side.
have been in our campaign.
And it's
speeches.
probably not Catherine, it's probably us that we need to double
I have
check.
my only comment, and I know we're over time, but I do think how can we get more people?
Yeah,
mean,
I was gonna bring that
It's just,
too.
I mean, I know it's difficult, and I'm trying to say no to some things myself, so I get it, but I just, I mean, we have a good group, and I enjoy all of you, it's nothing against any of you, but I just feel like we just need new blood, we just need more people. Like, I think if there's a specific feeder that's not being represented, could we engage them? I'm happy to talk to them, I'm happy to, invite them for coffee, something, like, but there's perspectives that I think are important here, and, I mean, I struggle in my own feeder to get people, so I get it, but, I think as we want to be as cohesive and collaborative and consistent as possible in the district, I do think it's helpful to get more. So I'm not saying you're not doing it, you're not doing it, but can we help in any way to kind of?
How do we go about that?
So Catherine Rich is the board executive assistant, and she has advertised for all committees, including Citizens Advisory Council. So that just closed at April 30th, I believe. And so I did not hear, have you, Melanie? So it was advertised. So I'm not sure how many, she will be submitting to the board the members that have applied for Citizens Advisory. And they are scheduled to review that and vote on any new members that meet the that want it to be a part for different committees. And that is upcoming in a future board meeting. Do you know when? So I know it's coming up soon, because normally Ms. Rich likes to get the information out before the end of the school year to say that you are going to be a member of this upcoming, and then over the summer many times, the committee will bring the new members together to explain kind of process of what a meeting looks like and share some information. So that is in the works. However, and again, it was advertised with students. I think information went out to all the principals to say that there are openings for students on committees. And so that, from my understanding, that was also shared. So hopefully we'll get some students, because we had
Alex, yeah.
3 students actually on this committee, and I'm not sure how many had actually attended or showed up. But again, reaching staff, reaching students, and ensuring a wide range, different feeder patterns, that's all something that the board looks at to try to fill some of the gaps.
Sure.
Is there a total number they're looking for?
Our bylaws, I believe, say a maximum membership of 25.
We've got plenty of room.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think having extra people, because we've never had, I mean, people just like fall off, or, I mean, this is generally the number we've had the whole time we've done this. I mean, it's hard to get people.
And if we only continue to have quarterly meetings, it says a member may be removed from membership after missing 3 meetings. So there is a request for members to be present.
Sure.
And if they are not, then they can be removed, which would again open up for additional members to possibly come in. It's normally advertised once a year. There have been times where committees have said, we've lost a significant number, can we advertise mid-year? And that has happened, but that is a board decision for them to be able to
Yeah, no, that's fine.
evaluate
I
and
appreciate the
decide
context.
that.
What are the ages of the students?
High school.
No, I know, but is it just, because I feel like it's seniors a lot, like, that have been coming, and then they have like a million things to do for their, so I didn't know if there's,
So we don't have,
it's
just
just
advertised.
open to whoever, okay.
so
I thought the student feedback was really, really helpful.
boots on the ground, the student
Yeah.
perspective is amazing.
And I think too, the nature, I mean, everybody, we are all very involved in things. You know, we had 2 parents go because they had a choir concert. I'm like, well, I'm here because my kids are here. So if my kid's doing something, I'm gonna go. Like, I missed a really important meeting in one thing that I'm involved in because my kid was doing something. I'm like, well, that's why I do all of those things. I'm gonna go with him.
Yeah.
And I'll catch up with you guys later because that's what we're all family first. Like, that's just, you know. But I think all of us, you know, we all do things in our own schools and our own feeder pattern in addition to these things. And I think this attracts those people also when we're all very busy. So we're all trying to say no sometimes or, you know, maybe later. And it's hard. And we've definitely felt that crunch of less people getting involved and so less people doing more things. And I think, you know, this is a unique opportunity. I had no idea what I was getting into when I applied, but I thought it sounded pretty neat. And I'm like, you know what? I want to get involved at that level and kind of learn about how things work. And then we really didn't know what the heck we were doing for a while. But we're like, we're going to just stick with it because it's going to be great. And here we are. So I'm glad we did. The OGs. The OGs. But there's so much value to sitting in this seat and to be able to sit at this table and have these conversations. You know, just talk about
So for IS once we get an update, we can send out some information about how many spots are still available and how many students possibly, and maybe we can connect with our own students or our schools to find out more. So I'll ask Catherine Rich for some additional information about timing, and as soon as I have more, I'll email the group.
Yeah, because I was going to say, could we do another communication push if we don't feel like we're going to reach our maximum number? Because I think we could write it up pretty creatively. Now that I am newly joined as well, and now that it is a very clear purpose about our policies and regulations, I think that helps someone who might want to get involved because they understand what it is that they're signing up for.
absolutely.
And that you're a liaison to your community. You're gathering information and collecting feedback to bring back to the broader group. So it's good stuff.
Great. Any other items for open discussion? Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. The end of the year.
So
The meeting is adjourned.
meeting, hold on, wait.
Sorry.
Meeting dates for
Never-
next year.
I'm terrible with
will be
this.
determined, and the board will work on determining the meeting dates for next year, and again, that information will be shared hopefully before at the end of the school year. So, perfect timing. We're about,
We signed it.
yeah, this is.